Good. All right. We are live here high above the practice fields at Gillette Stadium. Alex Barth, we got Matt Dolloff in for Scott Zolak today on the Patriots training camp recap. This training camp recap is brought to you by Starland Sportsplex and Fun Park in Hanover. Matt, a pretty eventful Sunday practice, 2 hours, the final day before pads come on. And obviously when that happens tomorrow, we're going to be focusing on the line, the running game, the physicality of it. So it was fitting today. They opened up the passing game and they let these guys throw. And I thought it was a showcase day, some good, some bad, but a showcase day for these quarterbacks and receivers.
Right. We're close to the real football. The real football is upon us, Barth. But today, honestly, it felt like real football today, right? The team drills, they did a lot of team drills, a lot of reps for everybody. All four quarterbacks got some reps in the team drills. And yeah, it was interesting to watch how competitive it was just for guys being in shells. They had a lot of one-on-ones. They did 7-on-7. They did 11-on-11. And yeah, they opened up the passing game. There was still a lot of short stuff, but there were a few deep shots down the field as well. So yeah, it was fun to watch the receivers and cornerbacks go at it a little bit. We saw a little bit of the running backs and tight ends catch some passes too. I really love the competitiveness early on. And yeah, it was great to see the day before real pads got on that they're already sort of ramping up.
All right, let's start off with the quarterbacks before we get to those wide receivers. I thought this was, I don't know about best day, worst day. I think it was the most consistent day for Jacoby Brissett. It felt like he, very business-like approach, didn't miss a ton of throws. He did have one highlight rolling to his left, puts the ball up about 35, 40 yards on the run and drops into Austin Hooper, who made a good catch.
He was rolling to his right.
Rolling to his right.
I'm fact-checking you there.
What did I say?
You said roll to his left.
I meant roll to his right. I did mean roll to his right.
Quick fact check, folks.
I knew that. I appreciate that. And then Drake Maye on the other side, his most erratic day in one-on-ones, and we did get some wide receiver corner one-on-ones for the first time today. Overthrew a couple guys in one-on-ones. Did have a few misses in team as well. He finished strong. His final period of team was his best period of the day, but as we get into pads here, it was I think a good day for Jacoby Brissett and Drake Maye, one to maybe work on.
Yeah, first on Drake Maye real quick. Yeah, he did have the deep overthrows. He's been working a lot on throwing to the outside, which is sort of the book on him. Like, we know he's pretty good throwing over the middle, but he's got to work on those outside throws. He had one that was intended for, I think, Mitchell Wilcox, number 87. The tight end, way off the mark.
I know.
Throwing
I know what you're talking about.
I think he had to move a little bit in the pocket on that one. And yeah, he didn't look very comfortable on that one. I don't think he's particularly comfortable when he has to move and throw on the run just yet, especially when there's pressure on him, when it's an 11-on-11. So yeah, he's got a lot to work on in terms of his consistency with his accuracy, especially down the field and especially throwing to the outside. I thought there were a few small signs that he's sort of picking up his command of the offense. There were a few plays where he was telling the receivers where to go. It felt like he knew where everybody had to be on the play. And it just comes down to executing for him. I think that's the key to him, is that he needs to execute the plays when he gets the chance, because we already know he's the most physically talented guy out of the quarterbacks. And yes, learning the offense is important for him, but that's not the stuff that we're seeing. That's the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. And you get small signs of that before the snap. But after the snap, he has to execute, because he has to make plays to impress the coaches to, even have a chance to move up the depth chart. And like, it's notable that he's still playing with the backups. It's not like they're each getting run with the starting offense, the projected starters.
Right.
Jacoby Brissett is here to start. He's here to play, I think, early on in the season. So I'm not putting Drake Maye anywhere near the starting conversation just yet. He's shown a little small signs of, making plays there in the first few days of practice. Today it was a little more erratic.
Well, look, and I'll say this, we got a long way to go in that regard. And today's one day, and I think overall it's been a positive start for Drake Maye, but just not his best day today. That happens. Look, if today ends up being his worst day of camp, he had a pretty darn good camp.
I'll take that.
Right. I'll put it that way. You have to have a worst day, just by definition.
Yeah, technically. Yeah. Process of elimination. So we'll see what he does tomorrow when the pads come on. A reminder, this training camp recap is brought to you by Starland Sportsplex and Fun Park in Hanover. Let's talk about the wide receivers, specifically the rookie wide receivers. We've talked a lot about Jalen Polk through camp. He's been very involved. He's just been on the field. He had a couple catches today, so you can continue that momentum. I don't want to take away from that being notable, but what was more notable, Javon Baker joined him today in being that involved as a rookie, and he was starting to make some plays. So the last time out here on Friday, he makes the great jumping 50-50 ball catch over Marcellus Dobb from Joe Milton, and today we see his role increase and his involvement increase. And that's a good sign, because really what this team is looking for is somebody who can take the top off the defense, and ideally he's that guy. It's basically him, Thornton, and Rager
for that role, you'd like to see the 4th round pick be the guy that emerges.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought Baker had the catch of the day, and it was in a one-on-one drill. It wasn't a team drill,
Right?
But he got a lot of separation down the field. It was against one of the backup cornerbacks, I think number 44.
Linebacker. Joe Giles Harris.
Okay, so that's a mismatch, obviously.
Yeah.
But he got a lot of separation down the field. And Jacoby Brissett launches it up there, and he had to track the ball over his head. It wasn't even over the shoulder. He had to look straight up over his head. He tracks the ball. He holds onto it. He goes down to the turf, holds onto it through the process, and huge eruption from the crowd. Crowd was a little better today, by the way. It filled out a little bit.
They were up in the ramps.
We
got the overflow crowd first practice of the camp. Now it wasn't all the way packed on the ramps like it used to be, but it was a good crowd today.
Right. That's a little more promising compared to what we saw the first couple days of camp.
Yeah.
But he makes the catch. The crowd erupts. He gets up. He pumps up the crowd a little bit, and his confidence has been one of the big stories among the rookies. The way he's been talking. He talked a little bit after practice. It feels like he's sort of reined that in a little bit. The confidence is still there. He told reporters, "I'm NFL ready," and he wants to prove that. And so I think they're taking their time with him a little bit. He spent a lot of time with the second offense, but today he sort of moved up a little bit, made that catch from Brissett. I love the way he's getting separation. I love the way he's making catches on the outside, getting separation with just a little cut in his route. So I really like that about him, and you got to love the swagger. I think we've been missing that in this receiver core for a while, and so I hope he outperforms his stock as a 4th round pick.
All right, so that's the rookie wide receivers. A couple quick notes on the veteran wide receivers. Pop Douglas spoke after practice, said he's close to coming back. Did have a wrap on his, I think it was his left hand. Had a small wrap on it, but he does seem like he's coming back. He had some good quotes too. Talked about, if they cover me, we got dogs out here, and the dogs are going to eat. So if they focus coverage on him. And another veteran receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster, couple more drops, another day where he's just kind of blended in. Again, we don't know exactly what the plan is for him because of his contract. $7 million they'd have to eat. Does that force them to keep him? But through 4 days, he hasn't necessarily done anything where you look at it and say, they should keep him for football reasons.
Right. Yeah. No, I think the only times Juju stood out today was the drops when the balls went off his hands.
I think it was one in one-on-ones and one in team.
There was definitely one in the team drills. I forget if it was 7s or 11s, but I mean, that throw looked a little bit behind him, but if it's on your hands, you should catch the ball.
It's a catchable ball.
This is a guy that he's been in the league a long time, and he catches ball. He's catched a lot of passes over the middle. He should have been able to catch that one.
Kayshon Boutte caught a very similar ball 3-4 plays later, a little behind him, went back against John Jones. Good catch by Boutte, but
and the other day Baker had a similar play where it was from Drake Maye, I believe. The throw was a little bit off the mark, but he adjusted his arm and sort of made an arm catch. But guys are sort of making plays where Juju Smith-Schuster isn't in the same situation. So I know it's a veteran guy. I know he costs a lot of money, especially if they're not going to play him. But I don't know. I feel like you have to play your best guys, and this is a very competitive camp so far at receiver. And I know you and I sort of disagree on this, but I think Polk, Baker, and Douglas are the only true locks to make the team. We'll see about Kendrick Bourne. He was out here a little bit getting some workouts in front of us, so that was a sign that he's making progress coming back.
Right.
I just don't think he's a total lock to make the roster. I think after those three, the 2 rookies and Pop Douglas, it's a good competition. I think Tyquan Thornton's had a pretty good camp so far. Bootie's having a good camp, so it's tightening a little bit on Juju, and especially today, I think he took a step back while the other guys sort of took a step forward.
And then a tight end first, real big day for Austin Hooper. Had a couple of catches. The catch of the day on that Jacoby Brissett rollout throw. Just been waiting for him. They've been missing that secondary tight end presence for years and years and years now. So one day does not make an entire season, but we saw him kind of pop today.
Yeah. Can we finally see what we were hoping to get out of Johnny Smith when they got
Johnny
him, right?
Smith,
right?
Mike Gesicki. You want to go back to Scott Chandler? We can have that conversation.
Yeah. Hooper wearing a Johnny Smith 81 out there.
Again, this Patriots training camp recap is brought to you by Starland Sportsplex and Fun Park in Hanover. Before we really quick, just look ahead to tomorrow. I don't know that there were any individual defensive things that stood out today. Joe Giles Harris had an interception working against Joe Milton. Anything else from the defense today for you?
Well, not so much as far as playmaking is concerned. Dietrich Wise had a couple plays.
Yep.
He had a play that I would have given him a sack. I think he got a hand on a ball at the line of scrimmage from Joe Milton. So, I mean, he was going up against the backup offensive line there and the third or fourth string quarterback. So I don't know how much stock I want to put in that. This is a guy that's going to make the team. But the one thing that stood out to me, Barthy, was just where a guy was lining up. We saw Marcus Jones line up as a deep safety on one play.
He played there. He's playing on the boundary. He continues to have a fantastic camp. He's been excellent, and that's so big for this team.
Yeah, and he's been all over the place. Like we saw as a rookie, the dynamic skills are there. the speed's there, the agility's there, the versatility's there. I don't know how much offense he's going to play, but like defense and special teams, like I think they're going to find a spot for him. I'm not sure if they're actually going to line him up in all different spots. Maybe they're just looking for a spot that works for him. But I thought that was notable to me that they lined him up deep there.
So looking ahead to tomorrow, pads come on. There's going to be a ton of focus on the offensive line, specifically the tackles. I talked about this with Zoe on the last show. I've written about it. At a certain point, you got to pick 2 tackles and leave them and let the line build chemistry. And after 3 days of juggling, and I get it, you want to try different things and see what works. After 3 days of juggling, we finally saw a group we'd already seen back out there today. That was the rookie Caden Wallace on the left side, Chuks Okorafor on the right side. I hope that's a group tomorrow because it just feels like there's some continuity there. And I do feel like objectively looking at it, that might be their best option.
I think so, yeah. I think based on what we saw the last couple of days, right, that it sort of feels like it's settled down a little bit up front. Not that they're, all of a sudden the best offensive line in the league, but the second day at camp was a rough day for that O-line, and I think that's when they had Chuks Okorafor at left tackle. They tried Vidarian Lowe at right tackle, so I think that had
Calvin Anderson played some on the left side that day too.
Yeah, Calvin Anderson played a little bit of left tackle, but it was mostly Okorafor on the left side. I know they had a lot of Vidarian Lowe on the right side. Vidarian Lowe is not going to be the starting tackle on either side for this team. So I think that played a big role in that rough day for the offensive line. But the last couple of days, it feels like it's settled. And maybe Caden Wallace can figure out how to play left tackle. I know it's very early, but he's going up against a good defensive front there, especially if he's going up against the starters. And I know it's harder than you might think to go from right side to left side. I know you talk about that a lot. But he feels confident that he can make that transition. It feels like the Patriots think that he could do that too. And it's a good sign that things sort of settled down a bit up front.
Well, they told us after the draft, Elliot Wolf told us, drafted him, as a potential left tackle. So good to see that play out. One more thing I'm looking for tomorrow on the defensive side. And I said this, I was on with Joe Murray and Cerrone Battle earlier. Keon White had a good start last year, suffered a concussion early, and I think that kind of messed with his momentum. He didn't really get back into form until late in the season, but Gerard Mayo said he was one of the most improved players this spring. I think as many boxes as a defensive lineman can check in non-padded practices, he's done that so far this summer. In the short term, having that guy, having a more explosive option opposite Matthew Judon and Joshua Uche, I think has value. And then looking long term, at least as things stand right now, Matthew Judon's on a 1-year contract. He's on an expiring deal. Joshua Uche's on an expiring deal. You might need another primary pass rusher, and that's not an easy position to add. If Keon White can give you some of that, it helps you add more on offense in the offseason. So Keon White's year 2 jump could mean a lot to this team in a lot of ways, and tomorrow we'll get our first real look at what's in store in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Keon White could make the decision a lot easier with Judon if they end up saying that they don't want to sign into an extension and they decide that they want to try to find a trade partner for him.
Yep.
Maybe someone like Keon White can make that decision easier. This is something we used to see all the time back in the day with Bill Belichick. He would draft guys a year early. He would get rid of guys a year early because he'd have someone ready to go. He'd have a next man up. Maybe Keon White could sort of be that next man up. I think. Look, we know what Christian Barmore can do. If Judon's still here, we obviously know what he can do. Keon White would add a whole new dimension if we have another dynamic difference maker, a guy that they had to account for and offenses had to plan for up front. Like that could make a huge difference for him because I don't think that the defense is going to achieve what we want them to do if it's just Barmore, because that's going to be offenses can just key on him. So if they have Keon White coming off the edge, like that's going to make things a whole lot more complicated for opposing offenses. So yeah, I'm hoping that he continues to improve.
All right. Well, we're going to go right up the rest of our observations. You can find those on 985thesportshub.com. For more of these recaps, be sure to subscribe either to the Sports Hub YouTube page. You can catch them live there, or you can, watch them in replay there. And we also post the audio version on the Patriots Sports Hub Patriots audio feed, wherever you get your podcasts. And this Patriots training recap has been brought to you by Starline Sportsplex and Fun Park in Hanover. Pads on tomorrow. Big day. We'll have more. Scott Zolak will be back. Until then, for Matt Dolloff, I'm Alex Barth. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.